If you're one of the very few people watching this video at the time of its release, then exactly 1 year ago today, Captain America: Brave New World flew into theaters worldwide following a very public behind-the-scenes process. Yeah, it's really upsetting to think that it's already been a year, right? Brave New World is a very fascinating case study to me, as it basically acted as a bridge between two very different eras of Marvel Studios. After wrapping principal photography in June of 2023, Marvel took some time during the writer and actor strike to reevaluate and decided that changes needed to be made as the movie wasn't working in its current form. The film underwent 22 days of reshoots in June of 2025 to add in new elements and, most notably, some new action scenes. This was a course correction for Marvel as they hit the brakes and started to slow down to re-establish an emphasis on giving the movies the time they needed after Disney gave them a mandate to pump out as much as possible in as little time as possible. So what was the result of this change and all the reshoots for Brave New World? A movie that I thought was pretty good, but also left a lot to be desired with breakneck pacing. Most normal people would have just moved on and went about their day. But I'm a freak, and I'm not normal. And as the Captain America cultist I am, I've spent every waking moment of my life thinking about this movie and what could have been, dreaming of all the deleted scenes from the trailer that call out to me, begging to be vindicated and given new life. So I did the only thing I know how to do. I put this obsession to good use and did some digging. A concept artist working on the film posted a color and shooting script on his LinkedIn page of all places, finally giving us insight to what that original version of the film was going to look like. This graphic that you're now seeing on screen was concept art for the original shooting script that Brave New World was working on as of January 17th, 2023. With this Rosetta Stone uncovered, I believe I've been able to fully decipher what the original plans for Sam Wilson's first outing as Captain America were supposed to look like. I have even gone the extra mile to scrub through literally every single piece of marketing to find as many clues as possible so I can confidently say I know what the first cut of this film had in store. Side note, did you know that only the French got Brave New World Cinnamon Toast Crunch? That's not fair. The French don't deserve anything nice. Okay, but without further ado, I present to you the original version of what would have been Captain America: New World Order. The film opens the same, with Thaddeus Ross giving a speech after being newly elected as the President of the United States, preaching themes of togetherness to overcome global threats. Cut to Sam Wilson watching this speech on the news from the bar. While the color script has this moment in the film, the shooting script mentions a different scene. In this alternate, we see Sam and Joaquin watching the event together on TV at Sam's apartment, a location designed for the movie but never made it past the concept art stage. Following that would have been a scene showing Sam and Secret Service agent Layla Taylor sparring at the gym. Marvel actually was kind enough to release this one online, so we know this would have featured Sam attempting to get information out of Layla regarding a Navy SEAL mission in Mexico. Another alternate scene included in the shooting script mentions that Sam would have had dinner with Layla at his apartment, leaning more into their romance from the comics. Now that Sam has acquired information on this Navy SEAL mission, we get our first big change from the movie, the original opening fight scene. This would have taken place at an airport in Mexico where Sam, Joaquin, and interestingly enough, Isaiah all intercept a package from the Serpent Society, who would have featured as the full group in this film. Concept art has given us a good look at their designs, showing us a mercenary group with cybernetic enhancements. The team was comprised of Sidewinder, originally played by visionary Seth freakin' Rollins, Diamondback, played by Rosa Salazar, alongside Cobra, who had the ability to expand his body, Constrictor, whose arms expanded into snake-like tendrils, and Asp, who could unhinge your jaw and bite you with poison fangs. There is a decent amount of concept art for this sequence that shows the fight sprawling from outside of the airport to at the bar, including a shot we see in behind-the-scenes footage and briefly in the first trailer. Sam, Joaquin, and Isaiah would have detained all but one member of Serpent, Sidewinder, as the trio handed the package off to American Special Ops in Mobile Command. From there, we hard cut to Sam, Joaquin, and Isaiah in a limo to the White House, where they are being honored for their heroic actions in Mexico. They drive past these DC landmarks and discuss their complicated feelings on walking into the lion's den like this, especially for someone like Isaiah Bradley, who was tortured and experimented on by the US government. The three of them are then intercepted by Ruth Bat Saraf, who in this version works for the CIA rather than being ex-widow. From there, Layla escorts Sam to have a private meeting with President Ross, who personally thanks Sam for saving the package. After buttering him up, Ross pitches Sam on restarting the Avengers, only working under him now that he's been able to see firsthand the good these heroes can achieve. Ross would then wave off Sam and tell him to consider the offer. Another deleted scene Marvel has released online shows Ross confronting Isaiah Bradley, who apologizes for what happened to him and how it was a stain on the country's legacy. Ross then extends an olive branch to Isaiah, asking him to stick around after the ceremony so they can get to know each other better. This leads into President Ross giving a presentation on the discovery of the millennium, adamantium, a material more indestructible than vibranium mined from Celestial Island. The only refined sample was stolen from a Japanese mining site, and is then revealed it was the object Captain America, Falcon, and Isaiah Bradley were rescuing down in Mexico. Ross's speech is abruptly interrupted by a recording of Mr. Blue, played by the Fleetwoods, that activates several super soldiers in the room, including Isaiah, with an attempt to assassinate Ross. Isaiah manages to escape, but Sam and Ruth chase him down until the mind control wears off. Layla escorts Ross to safety in a bunker at the White House while Isaiah is arrested in Pershing Park. Sam, alongside Joaquin in the shooting script, confront Ross in the bunker asking to investigate what happened. The meeting goes very poorly as Ross thinks Sam is too close to investigate the situation, so Sam storms out and ignores Ross's orders, determined to get to the bottom of what happened to Isaiah and clear his name. Their interaction ends with Ross telling Sam,
"You're not Steve Rogers."
With Sam originally responding,
"You're right. I'm not."
Instead of just being taken aback in a line that I really wish stayed in the final cut. Sam then visits Isaiah in a military prison meant to be one that holds veterans accused of crimes. Isaiah then pleads with Sam to keep himself out of this and regrets ever leaving his house in the first place. Ruth watches Sam's conversation with Isaiah over the monitor, hoping that Isaiah would incriminate himself. And that is the end of Act 1. Curiously, Act 2 begins with some stuff that didn't make it in the theatrical cut, but did make it into the marketing. The color script mentions a sequence at a New York plaza. This would have featured Sam and Joaquin investigating to determine the location of the Serpent Society's headquarters, with Ruth following close behind. Interestingly enough, Rosa Salazar was also on set for this shoot. If you'll allow me to connect the dots here using my knowledge from the future, I assume that our heroes would have been tracking her down in an attempt to find Serpent's base of operations to figure out who hired them to steal the adamantium. While it's hard to find out much about the New York Plaza section, the Chinatown sequence might be the most documented thing in film history, as there are dozens of photos showing off the set Marvel built, and a shot of Sam and Joaquin even made it into a TV spot. From there, now having figured out the location of their base, Sam and Joaquin investigate the Serpent Society's safe house before quickly engaging in a cat-and-mouse game with Diamondback. At one point, Joaquin gets trapped in the hallway, but cuts himself down as the two of them finally manage to subdue Diamondback. I know this concept art is utter nonsense, but you just have to trust me that these angry squares are actual characters. Cut to President Ross having a meeting with the 5 powers in the White House bunker, assuring them he will find a way to make sure Japan signs this treaty. Tensions rise and the clock is ticking as the political climate begins to heat up. We return to the Serpent safe house as Sam and Joaquin are interrogating a now captured Diamondback. They manage to get a lead on the buyer and plan to head towards Camp Echo 1, a military prison in Virginia that is sure to answer who hired the Serpent Society. Interestingly, once Sam and Joaquin leave, Sidewinder returns and uses invisibility tech to free Diamondback. And I kid you not, that is the last we would have seen from the Serpent Society in this film. We then follow Sam and Joaquin driving to Camp Echo 1 as they talk. Sam has a very hard time opening up to him, as he's afraid to get close with another partner after losing his wingman Riley, and shuts Joaquin out. Then we cut to Ross, alongside Layla, visiting his wife's grave at Arlington Cemetery. We actually get a condensed version of this scene repurposed at the start of the film in the theatrical cut. The big difference is that, in this version, Ross has a phone call with Samuel Stearns and starts to figure out what's really happening. You can actually start to see that happen here as they cut away and ADR over new dialogue. Ross would then make a call to Ruth, asking her to investigate this on his behalf in secret. In the shooting script, Ruth would have been at the Serpent safe house discovering the aftermath of Sam's interrogation. In the color script though, it's different as she's back at the CIA awaiting orders. Sam and Joaquin then arrive at Camp Echo 1 and infiltrate without being detected. There, they uncover a video of Stearns as a teacher giving a lesson about the brain before he interrupts them in person and reveals his new look. The first makeup test for the leader had him in a much more comic accurate outfit that even made it as far as merchandising, which is very funny, before they switched things up to his lumpy broccoli head. I can only assume this change was made as part of the reshoot's goal to give this film a more serious tone. Stearns then finally escapes Camp Echo 1 thanks to Sam and Joaquin's break-in and uses his newly mind-controlled guards as a distraction, giving us the fight scene we saw in the film. The action spills into the hallway where Ruth arrives to assist in taking down the rest of the guards. Meanwhile, as President Ross is giving a press conference, the leader immediately goes and leaks all of his secrets online. In a brief moment of rage, Ross breaks a table, showing signs of anger and that something is clearly changing within him. With World War III potentially on the horizon as more and more countries lose faith in the United States and Ross's leadership, he heads down to the USS Milius missile destroyer in the Indian Ocean to prepare. The shooting script notes that this conference takes place in China, while the color script has concept art of the Hyderabad house in the capital of India, New Delhi. What's interesting though is that I think we get to see the back half of this sequence in the film, as the Hyderabad green room concept art matches up with the set we see Ross break a table in during the actual film. The shooting script then cuts back to Sam and Joaquin, who are now being taken into questioning by Ruth. Determining they now have access to Stearns' files, they find proof that he controlled Isaiah and have exactly what they need to prevent this war from happening. They also know that Samuel Stearns has a weapon, but they're unsure of exactly what it is. The three of them, now on the same page, head to Celestial Island in a helicopter that Ruth has access to in a race against time to get this information to Ross before war breaks out. Sam and Joaquin have a moment to bond on the way there as their relationship is strengthened. Now forget all that stuff about the last scene I just told you, as the color script includes an alternate take that they actually shot for the film. This one shows Sam and Joaquin regrouping at Smith's Diner, going over the files they just stole from the leader and determining what his plan is. Now realizing the gravity of the situation, they pay a visit to, believe it or not, Stark Industries, where they meet the smartest engineer there, Amadeus Cho. He's able to analyze the pills Ross has been taking to figure out that the leader has secretly been dosing him with gamma radiation to turn him into a ticking time bomb. While this scene wasn't mentioned in either of the scripts, it was included in a plot leak that surfaced 4 months prior to the film's release that got pretty much everything besides this correct. So it seems to be another victim of the reshuffling of this film. We know it did happen though, because behind the scenes material from a makeup artist confirms that Marvel did indeed film new material at Stark Industries for the movie. Also, what I find to be fascinating is that Marvel included a single shot of this sequence in a D23 exclusive trailer as well, but it only showed us footage of someone in a trench coat breaking in, who I can only assume to be the leader. Apparently, according to someone who saw a test screening of this cut, the leader may have given Amadeus Cho some Hulk juice, which sounds awful out of context. So I assume what happened is that the leader got wind of Sam and Joaquin figuring out the pills, and he arrived at Stark Industries trying to turn Amadeus into a Hulk as a failsafe and a dangling plot thread for the future. Outside of that, I genuinely couldn't find any other information about how the leader was involved in this, so if you work at Marvel Studios, please contact me and tell me every little secret about this movie. I am dying to know. My email is currently up on screen and I will pay you whatever it takes. I will write you a blank check, dude. I am just a desperate man. From there, we pick back up on the USS Milius as Ross is in attack mode. Sam and Joaquin fly in and arrive on the ship to thankfully talk to Ross about their findings. Before Ross is able to pull back his ships, the damage is already done and the USS Reagan aircraft carrier is hit. It's then up to Sam and Joaquin to take off into the air to try and stop World War III from starting. This is almost identical to the aerial combat sequence we saw in the final cut of the movie, except for the fact that it was originally intended to take place at dawn with the sun rising throughout the fight. As Sam and Joaquin are in the air doing some of the coolest things you've ever seen, Ruth and Layla are on a cat and mouse hunt for Stearns within the Milius. There are a few cut shots of them in the trailer that would have expanded into this bigger action scene. My assumption is that the leader is playing his mind control song over the loudspeaker, leading to a fight on the ship while Ross is actively trying to resist turning into the Red Hulk. Also, there's another deleted scene from later on in the movie with Layla and Ross talking in the Oval Office, where Ross thanks Layla for helping him on the Milius, which makes me believe that there's a cut of this movie where Layla is the one that helps Ross calm down.
You helped pull me back from the brink. You're one of the best soldiers in my command. Never took a chance on you. And you're saving my ass, proved it.
I really wish that plotline stayed in the final cut because it does a lot to give Layla more depth as a character, which she desperately needed. After much tension, Joaquin gets knocked out of the sky in a parallel to what happened to Sam's former partner Riley, while Sam narrowly avoids the start of World War III. A helicopter arrives just as the sun rises and rescues Joaquin, taking him to Walter Reed Medical Center. And that is the end of Act 2. That brings us to the final act of the film, kicking off with Sam watching Joaquin get wheeled off into surgery, but in this version he doesn't go watch it happen. Instead, he's joined by Bucky in the waiting room as the two sit back to back with each other. We actually see this shot in one of the trailers as they carefully hide Bucky from us. I can safely assume that this pretty much goes the same way it does in the final cut, as Bucky inspires Sam by reminding him that he gives people something to aspire to. I do really wonder why they reshot that though. Maybe they wanted to add in some congressional references to tie it more into Thunderbolts? Regardless, the scene in the final cut is perfect, so I'm happy with what they did. Back in the Oval Office, Ross prepares to give a speech addressing what happened at Celestial Island. He gives Betty a call, and to his surprise, she actually picks up. The two plan to meet after his speech by taking a walk down at the cherry blossoms for old time's sake. This is the same scene we see in the final cut, only it's moved up in the order. Instead of going straight into the Red Hulk fight, we get a little bit more to chew on. Sam gets a call from Ruth outside Joaquin's room at Walter Reed, confirming that the adamantium is safe, but Stearns has gone missing. Before Sam can even begin to process where Stearns could have gone, he shows up outside of the hospital and talks to the press, exposing what Ross did to him at Camp Echo 1 for all these years. We do actually get a brief glimpse of this in the trailer as he's sneaking through the press wearing this Uncle Sam hat over his big ugly broccoli head. Stearns then turns himself into Sam as Ross begins his speech. Now Sam finally gets to question Stearns to uncover what's been going on the whole time, and Stearns doesn't even hesitate to spill the beans because it's already too late for Sam to stop his plan. Everything has been about Ross, as he was the secret weapon all along. Even if Sam did try to stop this, Stearns thinks he would die because he's not Steve Rogers. Sam says that he loves to prove people wrong and takes off from the hospital to try and stop Ross from hulking out. During Ross's speech, he finds out that Stearns told the world what happened at Camp Echo 1 when he spoke to the press earlier, and how he kept Stearns there as a prisoner. A recording of their phone call from earlier begins playing over the speakers, and Ross is so enraged that he finally hulks out. The Red Hulk has arrived. From there, the shooting script has Ruth and Isaiah, now free from prison, arrive on the scene as backup, but the color script doesn't include them in this final fight, so just keep that in mind. At the same time, Stearns flashes a group of guards attempting to arrest him and breaks free to go watch the chaos of his master plan unfold. I really hope that was a flashbang. Alright, I know we're all thinking it, so I have to ask, do you think, like, it is green too? Oh god, you know what, nope, now I'm picturing it. Ignore that. I do not want to go down that rabbit hole. One version has Sam put his leadership skills to the test as he, Ruth, and Isaiah all fight the Red Hulk. The fight quickly spreads to the roof of the White House just in time for Stearns to watch from afar. Oh yeah, and then in both scripts, he f***ing dies out of nowhere. I would have to assume he probably got injured escaping from the guards, but neither script has any mention of what caused him to die, so let's just assume his body just kind of did that. Sam then lures the Red Hulk away from the White House to East Potomac Park among the cherry blossoms to both get him away from civilians and remind him what he's fighting for. Unfortunately, the shooting script is cut off from here, but thankfully, the color script still gives us a good idea of how this fight unfolds. Sam dodges a car being thrown at him in the coolest way possible, while the Red Hulk is just pounding away at him like crazy, as hard as possible. Oh god, I did it again. Okay, yeah, that sounded bad. Let's just move on to the fact that Sam defeats the Red Hulk, and then Ross f***ing dies as well. According to Scooper Can We Get Some Toast, who Marvel Studios literally sued over Brave New World leaks, which pretty much confirms everything, adamantium was supposed to be able to absorb gamma radiation at one stage in the film, thus giving Sam the upper hand he needed to defeat and apparently kill Ross until he died. They hold a funeral for him and everything. Marvel literally showed shots of this funeral in every single trailer, and we got set photos of Liv Tyler attending that funeral, so it's very clear that he was going to die in the original version of the film pre-reshoots. After Ross's funeral is held, Sam checks up on Joaquin at the hospital. They grow closer than ever as Joaquin pours his heart out to Sam, while Sam finally takes Joaquin under his wing and teaches him the spin kick. Before Joaquin plans to ask the Wakandans for a hookup, Sam makes his intentions to rebuild the Avengers known. Interestingly enough though, that's not the final scene of the movie in the color script. While it's impossible to know who he's talking to, the movie ends with Sam back at the reflecting pool in DC where it all started as he meets with someone. My assumption would be it's the first step towards him rebuilding the Avengers, but I fear we'll never know. Well, that is, unless someone wants to leak it to me! Please, I'm waiting! Email on screen! Tell me everything! Oh, and one more thing. According to Can We Get Some Toast, before Kevin Feige took them out back and shot them, the original post-credit scene would have focused on Betty Ross. While the details are a little foggy, one person who allegedly saw a pre-reshoot test screening confirmed that this scene would have shown Betty noticing a series of fiery footsteps in her backyard before she sees the Red Hulk's glowing eyes staring back at her, and then he would mysteriously vanish. That's right, they would have revealed Ross actually did survive the events of the film, but he was now permanently stuck as the Red Hulk. It was basically Marvel's way of making things easier for Harrison Ford if he ever wanted to return in the future, since he could just do the voice this time around. When the movie was reshot to make it so Ross survived, according to Daniel RPK, a different post-credit scene was allegedly added where Sam and the leader discussed how he turned Amadeus Cho into a Hulk. This would have been an extended version of the scene we saw in the theatrical cut, but once they decided to cut Amadeus out of the movie, they just trimmed out those lines, and we're just left with the scene where the leader makes some vague threats. Real fun stuff. And that is the end of what would have been Captain America New World Order, or at least a few different potential outcomes for the movie. I know early scripts had Eli Bradley in the film, and there was an unused set design for Sam's boat that would have had him, Isaiah, and Steve all playing poker together, which is wild to think about, but none of that ever made it into the final script from January 2023 that they shot from. It's reassuring to know that the overall structure of the film was still there in both versions, just with a few characters swapped in and out and a shiny new coat of paint on the fight scenes. But here's the thing, now that we know what the film looked like at first, I think it's important to compare that to the final product to determine if these changes were a good decision. Obviously, this is a lot easier said than done. Something can sound really good on paper and then be executed very poorly or vice versa, so all I really have to work off of is my imagination, which is both a blessing and an endless hellscape I'm constantly trying to claw my way out of. But regardless, I'm going to do my best to be fair when breaking down the big changes to decide if the original version was better or worse. For starters, I think that Brave New World is an infinitely better title than New World Order. Not only is that connected to an anti-Semitic conspiracy theory, but Brave New World just has a much more hopeful tone in line with Sam's character. Plus, there isn't even a New World Order established in the film. The entire story is about living in a brave new world full of adamantium and embracing togetherness, so the new title works so much better. And the less my goat is associated with Hulk Hogan, the better. Okay, but by far the single biggest change in the film was the way they reworked the opening fight scene to remove the Serpent Society. Instead of having this big opening fight against the cybernetic Serpent Society at an airport, we see Sam take on a more grounded version of the group at a cathedral. The big difference here is that Sam is going in all alone until he reluctantly lets Joaquin stop the Serpent Society from getting away, and most importantly, he is in the best costume of all time, that gorgeous white suit. Far and away, the best a superhero movie character has looked in live action gets a slight redesign and graces our screens again, which I think justifies every single reshoot possible. I cannot fathom, for the life of me, how they were originally going to just casually open the movie with Sam in the navy blue suit without any explanation. I think I would have strapped a bomb to my chest and charged straight into Marvel Studios if that ever happened. Also, the inclusion of the white suit makes it easier to understand that anytime we see that on screen, it was reshot material, basically meaning that the opening fight scene, Sam's interactions with Joaquin, and the creation of the Cap Cave was completely new. Suit aside, I think my biggest hot take is that I'm glad they cut this version of the Serpent Society out of Brave New World. Don't get me wrong, I would have loved to see them. Seth Rollins in a Marvel movie excites the hell out of the wrestling fan in me, and I was really looking forward to Rosa Salazar's Diamondback, but I really did not like those designs, man. What's so fun about the Serpent Society in the comics is how hard they lean into the snake theme, so to see them as green mercenaries just felt wrong to me. I think Giancarlo Esposito's inclusion is a much better replacement, as his group takes more inspiration from the Sons of the Serpent, which can always evolve into a bunch of snake people. It sucks to lose out on a more drawn-out investigation in Chinatown, as I do think that would have significantly helped the pacing issues to slow down and make the stakes clear, but I fundamentally can't get behind a Serpent Society that looks like rejected cyberpunk characters. Taking them out of the film is Marvel's opportunity to do them right and give us the colorful snake-themed villains we deserve. It also helps to know that the original action scenes weren't up to Marvel's standards, so I can rest comfortably knowing the changes we got in the final cut are better. The inclusion of James Young, the stunt coordinator from movies like Captain America the Winter Soldier, really improved the fight scenes. I mean, come on, we get to see Sam hit this insanely sick shield kick and beat a guy over the head with a brick. What's not to love about that? It's especially a great change considering it gave us my favorite fight scene in the movie when Sam gets ambushed by Sidewinder. The original cut had the Serpent Safehouse break-in, but I think it's much more important to see Sam fighting outside of his suit. He is a technology-based hero, so it gives us a much better idea of his skill set in a scene like that. It was such a great way to show us how capable Sam is in hand-to-hand combat and how crafty he's able to get on the fly. Plus, the way he went fully horizontal to kick Sidewinder was nasty. I loved that moment. In that same vein, the final cut adds a new introduction for Isaiah Bradley since he isn't there in Mexico, which is a great change. It feels like way too much of a 180 for Isaiah to be a hero all of a sudden after all the things he went through and how we left him off at the end of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Just seeing him help Sam and Joaquin train is a much more natural step in the right direction for his journey, and is a very cool way this movie shows us Sam as a tactical strategist. We know he can't physically outmatch Isaiah, but he can use his speed to his advantage to sneak up on him, a very fun way to foreshadow how he'll end up beating the Red Hulk at the end of the film. As for other additions in the final cut, I'm 99% sure that Ross and Sam's argument on the Milius was added in reshoots as well, considering it's not mentioned in either script, and the importance of the pills was only added in additional photography. For my money, this is the best acted scene in the entire film and plays a significant part in helping Sam and Ross see eye to eye. Sam is able to relate to Ross's insecurities and the feeling of having something to prove. Ahead of the Red Hulk fight, it is necessary to give these two a connection that puts them on the same page, especially considering all their past history, as Ross literally hunted Sam down when he was a fugitive. When the whole message of the movie is to lead with compassion, you have to show that there's always a common understanding to connect with others. Plus, it is a really great way to humanize a character like Ross as he gets to be an actual character in the film. That scene makes his motivations clear and paints him in a sympathetic light as he's just trying to prove people wrong, which Sam can easily understand as a black man carrying the stars and stripes. It's an extremely important scene to the movie that Harrison and Mackie do an incredible job with. Their chemistry was undeniable and helped make that movie work as well as it does. One change I really don't like though is honestly the inclusion of Dennis Dunphy as Sam's contact in the Navy SEALs. Dennis's role in the movie is to basically help Sam figure out what the pills really are as this middleman. On paper, I think his inclusion is very needed. He is an actual Captain America character in the comics, better known as D-Man, who gets to be a fun part of Sam's supporting cast. And God knows we needed more of that in this movie. But the decision to kill him off for seemingly no reason, that's just baffling to me. I don't understand why they did that when he could have done so much more in the future. They could have cut that scene where the leader stops his heart, and I swear nothing would have changed. It's one of those things where I'd rather not have had him at all if they were just gonna kill him off like that. And the most messed up thing is, Sam never even finds out about it. He dies completely in vain. Amadeus Cho makes more sense as an actual Gamma expert and would have meant we saw the leader have more agency in the story, so I really wish they went that direction. The leader's plan seems to have been chopped up a lot in the film, and that's a bummer. I was really looking forward to seeing him step out of the shadows and becoming a more public figure, so I would have liked if they kept that plotline intact. There's also one specific moment from early on in the film that I failed to mention where the leader is taking pictures of Sam, Joaquin, and Isaiah outside of the White House, which makes no sense considering the fact that he was locked away at Camp Echo 1 during that period, and neither script I had access to explain that, so what were they cooking? I would really love to know what the original pitch was for the leader's plan and see how it changed over time, because these answers have eluded me for so long. Even now, having this complete picture of the movie, I still don't understand how that would have fit into it and would love to have seen a version where he has more agency in the story. The hospital scene and press conference could have gone a long way to make his presence feel much more impactful. Instead, he just gets out of prison, kills a random family, and then turns himself in. What a genius plan that is. The next two changes I want to mention come in the final act, and that's how both the leader and the Red Hulk originally died. Marvel already has a problem killing off too many of their villains, and this would not have helped, so I'm very glad they reshot the end of the movie to fix that. Having Ross die is especially weird because that would have meant he didn't have a complete character arc whatsoever. I guess it's more of a tragedy in that sense, but I much prefer him proving that he's capable of change and doing the right thing to finally start rebuilding that bridge with Betty. Also, the idea of Captain America killing the president and everyone just moving on does not feel like it is properly explained either, so it's best we just avoid all of that entirely. Sam using his skills as a counselor to talk him down is much more in line with his character, so I will happily take this messy green screen shot if it means his character stays intact. Also, on the topic of the Red Hulk fight, I think it is much better to have Sam take him on alone rather than having Ruth and especially Isaiah on his side. Isaiah casually being released from prison off-screen does not nearly have the same weight as his release in the final cut, and I think that when you're trying to establish Sam Wilson as the Captain America, you need him to have a strong showing by himself first. I get the idea of having him lead a group of people in battle to show his skills as a leader, but you gotta walk before you can run, and it is so much more important to show how Sam is capable as a combatant, taking on the Red Hulk by himself, and letting his actions do the talking as he outsmarts him with his strategy. That is infinitely better than a team-up that felt kind of forced in the original version. As for the leader, I still don't understand how he died in the first place or what that would have accomplished. Sam proving the smartest man in the world wrong by being a good man works so much better in the framework of the narrative. The last thing I want to touch on is the original ending at the reflecting pool. As much as I love Sam and Joaquin's powerful conversation, I think that would have been the perfect way to end the film. When we first met Sam Wilson in the MCU, he was going on a run outside that very same reflecting pool, a moment that changed his life for the better. It's crazy to think that Sam really went on a run one day, and now he has to fight the Red Hulk president because of it. It's a really sweet full circle moment to end his first solo movie in the same way where his first appearance started, and I really wish we got to see that. Even more so depending on who he was talking to in that scene. The realistic choice is probably Bucky, but a Captain Marvel appearance would have been the best way to start building out the Avengers roster. All in all, I definitely think the version of Brave New World we saw was way superior to the original cut, and thank God, because imagine if it was somehow worse. It really seems to me that Marvel took that opportunity they were given during the strike to fix underlying issues in the film that carried over from the short turnaround time by fixing the action scenes and, according to director Julius Ona, giving the movie a more cohesive tone. A casualty of those tonal changes was presumably the leader's big dumb green head, I mean that as a compliment, in favor of the more serious and disfigured broccoli brain look. It definitely fits the tone better, but I'd be lying if I said I didn't prefer the campiness of a big head. Maybe Marvel just hates colorful heads of hair because they also cut out Rosa Salazar's Diamondback again. The closest thing we have to proving she was ever in this movie was a goddamn McDonald's toy, which is objectively hilarious. In spite of all that, those 22 days of reshoots were all the worthwhile and did a lot to improve the movie as much as they could with the time they were given. It's more cohesive and a genuinely impressive edit, but I still wish they didn't chop it down to bring the film in under 2 hours. More than anything else working against this movie, I fully believe that the condensed runtime is its biggest weakness. The breakneck pacing means we lose a lot of important character moments between Sam and Joaquin. The cut Ruth scenes won't be missed though. All of her scenes really should have just been given to Layla anyways, so she had something meaningful to do instead of giving us 2 characters that did the same job. Filmmaker Robert Bresson once said that a film is born 3 times. First in the writing of the script, once again in the shooting, and finally in the editing. In the case of Captain America Brave New World, it was definitely reborn for a 4th time during the reshoots as well. Every single movie goes through changes. It's a very natural part of the creative process. Some more than others. To me, it's a testament to the love and care from the creatives behind the scenes to put in the work to make this movie better. Regardless of the final result, watching any interview with people like director Julius Ona, Anthony Mackie, Harrison Ford, or anyone else on the cast makes it abundantly clear that they all cared about the movie they were making. It is entirely valid and correct to say those problems shouldn't have been there in the first place, and we need to demand better from the studio, but due to circumstances surrounding Marvel at the time, I'm glad they at least did what they could to make the movie as good as possible, even if they then didn't have the balls to commit to that when they caved in on the runtime, but whatever, man. I'm definitely not bitter about that. You all know by now that Sam Wilson's Captain America is my favorite character right now, so this movie means a lot to me. I literally made an entire video debunking all the lies surrounding it. I bet my reputation on this film. While it didn't live up to my expectations, it'll still hold a special place in my heart for all the good I still think it did, even in spite of the flaws. Listen man, it's Valentine's Day, and I'm making a video about Captain America. I clearly have the room in my heart for this film. Why don't you just let me know down below your thoughts on the original version of Captain America Brave New World? I mean, you're watching this on Valentine's Day too, so that clearly means something. You've got the time. I would genuinely love to hear what everyone has to say and continue the conversation down below. And while you're at it, make sure to give this video a like and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. If you don't do it, I'm gonna cut you out of your life. Not in a filmmaking way, I'm going to cut you with a knife. So you better subscribe.